So today we're going to look at a project as far as a skidder. We got to check it out for a friend to see if what's going on with it's been sitting for years. Possibly the engine set up on it. It's a cable skidder. 2 batteries. And we didn't bring any jump pack, did we?
No, they're all down there. I'm wondering because I just yanked that.
It started being engaged?
That's what I'm wondering. I can't. There's no way he put a bar on that fucker.
No. It's 440, Claude.
Huh?
It's a 440.
440? No. Yeah, she's not a high dollar skidder. She'd be a good one for someone like you and stuff.
I'm going to sell this at auction in about a month or so. I may be looking at this for myself for the farm. But without knowing, it could be the starter locked engaged. You know, they're saying that the engine is seized or set up. The exhaust has no top on it, so the water could have come right down in on top. Been sitting for at least 3 to 4 years that I know of. But if we can get it to turn, and so after tinkering with it a little bit, we finally got it to turn over. So the next thing is to get it turning over fast enough. We're back on the skidder. We got the engine broke loose. Now we're going to see if we can't get her to fire up. So basically, to bring everybody up to speed, we were asked by friends of ours that do farm auctions and just auctions in general. And they've actually did one for me a few years back and did a great job. But they've been asked to come in and help liquidate some of the stuff that's not being used anymore. The folks that own it are getting up in years. I've known them for over 40 years, great people. But the thing is with this skidder, they want to put it through the auction, but if it's not running, of course, they're not going to get anything for it. So they've asked us to come in and see what we can do. We've had a few other people in here, and they said that just chalk it up to a lost cause. So what we did so far was we found that we did break it free. We're using the bar by rocking it back and forth, and we have come back with a brand new battery and 2 jump packs. And what we're trying to do at this point is disconnect the older batteries that are in it right now that are no good, hooking up our one good battery, taking one of the jump packs and hooking that to that battery to give it a little bit more oomph. And then the other jump pack is going to be hooked directly to the starter and then grounded to the frame. That way you're going to get a good hit all the way around. The better way would be to have 2 brand new batteries that size and put them in, but there's just so much work it takes just to get those batteries out. You have to tear a lot apart. But these used to be a common size skidder, you know, I mean, they're a nice little skidder. Back when I was in my 20s and stuff, a lot of the bigger outfits, this is what they ran. But now they've gone to twice, 3 times the size of this. and they've all gone to basically grapple. They're trying to make any money at it, the wood processors or the logging companies. But this would be handy. I mean, I would love to have this on my farm. Is it something that I need? No, but it would be a nice addition if it goes right. But I'm trying to be fair with everybody as well, you know, even though I have an interest in it, I need to do my best to help my customers get stuff fixed when they ask us to fix them. What Claude was just doing was we had come back with 5 gallons of fuel, and he opened the fuel filter and it was full of ice. So he cleaned it all out and he loaded it with diesel. And you do that so you haven't got to pump as much to the system. You know, you've already got the filter full. And he's putting that back on right now. And what I did was I took the rest of the diesel in the 5-gallon container and I'm dumping it into the fuel tank right now. But at this point we have it so that it's turning over and it's just not getting fuel. And it sounded like the fuel tank was empty when we had tunked it, and then we tried dropping a bar in there to see how much fuel was in it, and we couldn't get any fuel to hit the bar. So now for you guys that are, you know, new to the channel or returning, you know, most of you guys are for small engine repair, and this is of course not classified as small engine. But what we did for years is we stayed strictly with the lawnmowers, snow blowers, chainsaws, weed eaters. But we found that during the winter months, that's when things start to slow down for us. So we started trying to look at an alternate to have income coming into the shop, and we started taking on these smaller, older farm tractors that the dealerships wouldn't even look at, because to find somebody that's a mechanic that can work on the older stuff is getting harder and harder. Most people have retired. All the new stuff that's being produced is all electronic. You know, you plug it into a laptop with a software program that tells you what parts to change and what the issue is. With these old girls, you got to have an old school mechanic. And Claude, my sidekick, I call him, but he's got a wealth of knowledge. Everything from working for car dealerships as a mechanic to bus garages, and then to a number of different logging outfits. You know, you can't get much better than him as far as troubleshooting and getting something going. And we've worked together for so long now that we don't even hardly talk. We know exactly what each other wants, and we just get her done. I would not classify myself as a mechanic. You know, I listen and I learn and I do a lot of that stuff, but he's the mechanic here. But we started taking on the smaller tractors, the older ones, for winter projects, because it was a bigger project, but it had bigger returns, you know, that splitting a tractor and replacing the clutch, throwout bearing and so forth, you know, $1,500 to $2,000. Where our average lawnmowers or average snowblowers coming in and out of the shop were like $100, and about half of that was in parts. So it takes a lot of those it takes a lot of snow blowers and lawnmowers to get the same amount of income that you would with a tractor. But our policy has been that we don't take on anything that's bigger than our shop. But this was an exception because the two families that asked us to work on it, we're really good friends with them, so. But we got the fuel in it. The fuel filter is full. But we ran into an issue of it's got the manual fuel pump on the side that you can take and prime it by using a lever. And we tried drawing the fuel from the tank up to the fuel pump. And once you get to the fuel pump, hook that line back up, and that'll fill it to the filter. And then from the filter, it goes up to the injection pump, where you have to start bleeding there, and then up through to the actual injectors that you have to bleed. It's a process. You know, one of these things, when they run out of fuel, they're a pain in the backside, usually, to get everything primed up. It's a time consuming thing that you just gotta do it and do it right. But we spent quite a bit of time trying to get it pumped up. The end result was that the line that went from the tank to the fuel pump, we believe is froze, that we believe there must be water in it, since there was water in the fuel filter. Claude tried drawing it by the old school of using his mouth and providing a vacuum. He'll be tasting diesel for weeks, and he couldn't blow or pull. So something tells us that it's got to be something either in the tank that's froze, or it's in the tank and in the lines that's froze. And right now it's not warm enough outside for us to be able to drain those. If they're froze, they're froze. I mean, that's all there is to it. But we're trying to follow the fuel line right now to see where it goes from the tank to the fuel pump. What I'm doing is I'm listening to the fuel tank while he's blowing, and there's no bubbles, no nothing, or any air passing that to say that it's getting back to the tank. There's got to be obstruction somewhere in that system. So what we ended up deciding was, this is going to be the end of part one. We're going to do a part two. We're going to bring some more fuel back in a container, and instead of running it from the tank to the fuel pump, we're just going to bring some fuel line with us, hook it to the fuel pump, draw it up, and we want to make sure first it's going to run before we get too far on it. It's not fair to the folks if we spend a lot of hours and it's not going to run. So that's the game plan. I mean, I hope you stay tuned for part two, and I'll see you on the other side, I guess. Thanks so much for watching.